thank everyone for giving me part of your lunch break to do my speech. As many of you know, I've been in school for the last 2 years now learning all about communications. I did not choose healthcare administration. I purposefully chose professional communications because I think it's something that's slightly lacking in the healthcare field and is important. So by a show of hands, how many people think that communication is a problem in our department? Anyone? Yeah, it's kind of what I thought. And that's why I chose to go down this path. So, for the next 15 minutes, I'm going to give you guys a quick, brief overview of some of the things I've been learning. So, we're going to start with the definition of what communication competence is. That is the ability to effectively use a variety of communicative behaviors to achieve a goal during an encounter, which is a really wordy way of saying it's getting your message across. Shared understanding and meaning is the whole goal of communication. Communication happens when a person encodes a message, sends that message to the receiving person, they decode the message, and send feedback back. It's a pretty simple cycle, except that in real life, communication happens at the same time. So typically as someone is encoding a message, the other person is also encoding their own message, and we're decoding messages at the same time as communication happens. So, for example, say I need to go on transport, but I have another patient that their endotube needs to be advanced 2 centimeters. If I'm working with Nathan, I can send a message to him saying, hey Nathan, can you advance person A's endotube 2 centimeters? He gets it, message received, he can encode his own message, yes or no, and send a message back. Did you say yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. All right. So, that's a good communication. But what happens a lot of the times is in transit, that communication gets blocked. Thank you. Gets blocked by pride or prejudices. I had to get my favorite movie in there. They get blocked by external noises, which is anything from call bells going off, alarms going off, our pagers, our phones. Communication is interrupted with that. Or it can be interrupted by internal noises, which is things going on inside ourselves. It's okay. The screen just goes black after a few minutes. So, internal noises would be things like those thoughts in the back of your head. Oh, as soon as I get home, I've got to mow the yard, go to the grocery store, or I got in a fight with my kids on the way in here, or what have you. All of those internal noises affect how we send out messages and how we receive them. Other things that can cause an issue in communication would be cultural barriers and language barriers. Obviously, if you have a patient who speaks Spanish and you do not speak Spanish, you're not going to be able to communicate with them what you need them to do. So clearly communicating at the professional level, and especially in the healthcare field, can be complicated, but does it really matter? Do we really need to be good communicators in order to do our jobs well? The answer is yes. Yes, we do. Communication is necessary for effective teamwork. It's necessary for good decision making, for problem solving. It's necessary at the organizational level for how things are going to run in the daily operations of our department. Good communicating is also necessary for relationship building and sustaining those relationships. We spend the majority of our time with our coworkers, unfortunately not with our family, and we need to have good relationships with them so we can communicate well and do what we need to for our patients. Good communication also leads to increased performance at a personal level and also at a departmental level. It leads to increased customer satisfaction, which for us, our customers are our patients. And we all know that starting in this past January, our reimbursement is now based on customer satisfaction. And so if we want our reimbursement rates to go up, then we need to be able to communicate well with our patients and each other. It also leads to decreased turnover amongst departments. If there's good communication, then people aren't as likely to leave the facility. So what can we personally do about this? what can you and I do on a day-to-day basis to actually increase our own communication skills and subsequently increase the communication skills of our department. So I've come up with a few lists, or a few items, and I have cheat sheets that fit in our little badges.
Thank you.
So, you're welcome.
Gracias.
De nada. So, the top of your cheat sheet, I have be honest. It doesn't matter how good of a communicator you are, if you're lying about something, no one is going to ever trust you, and you will never be able to establish the relationships with your patients or with your coworkers that you need to in order to do your job effectively. This has to do a little bit with business ethics, but it's very important, especially in the healthcare field. We need to be able to be viewed as trusted by our patients and by our coworkers. If you know something but you can't reveal that knowledge yet, then you need to tell the person receiving your message that you're not at liberty to share that information yet. Or if you don't know an answer to something, be honest about it. Don't make up something just to try to save face. It never is going to work out anyway. Another tip is to assess who you are communicating with. Now, we all do this day to day without even thinking about it, but it's always a good reminder. You're going to speak differently if you're talking with a doctor versus Lauren versus, I don't know, Jim Fenish, whoever you're talking to. You're going to use different speech, different vernacular, different sentence structure, things like that. Ask yourself what your goal is for that communication. So, say if you have to page a resident to get vent orders, that's your goal, is to get vent orders put into the computer. Just helps to keep that in the back of your mind. You want to have an end goal for the reason that you're interacting with someone. You want to select the best path of communication. So, like I said, say you need vent orders. One of the best paths for that is to find the resident if they're in the unit, or if they're not, just send them a quick text page. You won't want to send them a private email asking them for vent orders. That would they'd never read it anyway, so that would be pointless. Whereas if you wanted to ask someone to switch a weekend with you, a good way to do it would be to send them a private email so they have the dates written down, and if you don't see them, then at least they can get it when they come into work. If you're responding to an email that was sent to you, or if someone comes up and talks to you, again, the best way is to respond back in the way that they reached out to you. So if Bill comes up and says something to me, my appropriate response to communicate back to him would not be to whip out my phone and text him. My appropriate response would be to call him. Same thing if I email someone, I would expect that they would email me back, not call me. When you do have a face-to-face conversation, things you want to just keep in mind are your tone of voice. Even if, especially if it's a hostile type communication, it's very difficult to keep an even tone of voice, but it's also very important, because with your even tone of voice, you're actually going to be calming the situation down and can work through things a little bit better. You want to watch proxemics, I think is how you say that word. It's the big fancy word for what Seinfeld called close talker. The whole, hi, how are you today? You don't want to be doing that. It's just awkward, it looks awkward, it feels awkward, and in American culture that is way too close for personal conversation. 2 to 3 feet for personal conversation. Watch your body language. If you are not making eye contact with someone, they're probably not going to be listening to you. So make eye contact, and you want to pause before you respond back in the conversation. Even if you know the answer right away, a brief second of pause is going to make people realize that you're thinking about your response back, and it'll make you seem more intelligent. Not that you guys aren't already all brilliant, but anyway. When we have to do, especially when we're orienting new employees, when you have to give some constructive criticism, always remember that you want to address the behavior, not attack the person themselves. So I think we all do a pretty pretty good job of that anyway, but throwing it out there as a quick reminder. And lastly, we live in a world of technology, so there's a few tips I have here for emailing, communicating. Reserve the reply all button until it's absolutely necessary. We all have emails that are, or email inboxes that are pages long of emails. We don't need to be reading emails about things that really don't pertain to us. So reserve that. And when we get an email that comes in from time to time of something that upsets us, when you respond to that email, write it up in a draft form, save it, wait 24 hours, and then reread it. Check it for spelling mistakes, check it for grammar mistakes, because when you're upset, you're going to be making those. And when the person receives it and sees all of that, it looks unprofessional and they're not going to read it. So your message isn't even going to be heard. So that's my last little quick tip of technology. But part of the other thing of communication is listening. It's actually half of communication, is being able to be a good listener. So one way that you can improve your communication competence is to increase your listening skills. You can do that by focusing your full attention, leaning forward, facing the person that's talking to you in a face-to-face conversation, keeping eye contact, and also as you're hearing the message, give the sender benefit of the doubt. Don't judge them right away for what they're saying, because they might be able to explain what's going on more than what you're thinking. You might just hear the first couple sentences and think, oh, they're attacking me, when as they go on, they're really not. Some people aren't good senders of messages, and they need time to explain what they're talking about. Also, you want to, like I said, pause a second before you respond, and don't allow your knee-jerk reactions to come out. Take that second to formulate what you're going to say and speak it out. And provide feedback when people ask you for feedback on things. So those are just a few ways to increase your communication competence and how they apply in our workforce. That is by no means an exhaustive list of all the stuff I've chosen to learn over the last 2 years, but just a quick 15-minute synopsis. So again, I want to thank you guys very much for giving me part of your lunch break. You're all wonderful. And you already are unknowingly practicing part of essential communication competence, which is listening. You guys are great. I look forward to hearing any feedback from you. Do any of you guys have ideas on other ways we could improve communication in our department? Nope. All right, well, thank you guys. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it. And don't forget to get your cupcakes on the way out.